What's going on, everybody? My name is Franco, and today I'm going to be continuing my series where I go over each team's fantasy prospects for this upcoming season. I'm going to go today with the Miami Dolphins, who I would say is a pretty solid group. I mean, we obviously know the addition of Tyreek Hill will change up a lot of things, and Tua going into his third year is kind of a make or break season. So we'll get into that in a minute. I'm going to be continuing to do these for every team until we get to the start of the season. So if you enjoy the content, please like, comment, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. It'll go a long way. That being said, I'm going to start off with the aforementioned Tua Tagovailoa, who's coming in as the QB 17 this year with a rank of 120 on ADP. Obviously, like we said before, the Tyreek Hill addition gives him a brand new fun weapon to go alongside Jalen Waddle, and I think that'll really open up the field for him nicely. He also has a pretty decent rushing upside. He's not like going to blow you away with his speed, but he's got good enough speed to scramble out of the pocket and make some plays on his own, get some rushing touchdowns as well. That being said, as anyone who's been a Dolphins fan or had Tua in fantasy knows over the past couple of years, he's been inconsistent. He's been unproven. He's had some really low lows, and honestly, his schedule's a little tough this year. Starting off the year with some hard defenses, Baltimore, Buffalo, New England, just having a lot of tough games on the schedule does make it a little rough, especially if you're in a one QB league and looking to stream somebody for a week. Tua might not be your go-to option. That being said, it's hard to ignore the upside, especially with the new options given to him at wide receiver. And I like him in a nice waiver wire pickup. Definitely a good super flex option that you can get as like a QB2 or a QB3 this season. Chase Edmonds out of the backfield. Miami's backfield is terrifying. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I was toying the line between, a chuck or a minus or whatever for Chase Edmonds, and I ended up going with a like here. I think mostly this has to do with his value. Well, Edmonds himself. Edmonds is coming in as RB30. He really makes his money in the pass catching game. He's a great pass catcher out of the backfield, and he's projected to lead this committee. But that being said, it's a terrifying committee. They have Chase Edmonds. They brought in Sony Michel, who was solid with the Rams. They brought in Raheem Mostert, who, when healthy, is a speed demon, but he's never healthy. Myles Gaskin is still there. Like, there's a solid group you have going, and it's just way too much for me to really want to be eager to dive into and try to guess who's going to be the lead one. But if we had to choose any, I would choose Chase Edmonds, mostly because of his pass catching upside. This gives him a big leg up in PPR, allows him to see the field a little bit more in the ways that some of the other running backs can't. Obviously, he does have his own concerns with the committee. He also has a little bit of injury concern as well. He missed a couple of games last year, which makes him a little more prone in that regard. But I don't think that'll be a huge issue. Obviously, my main concern, like I said, is with the committee and also just the Dolphins' history of using running backs. If anyone here has ever drafted Myles Gaskin, we share the same pain. Drafting anyone in that department is just a burden. But, I'm saying all this negative about him. The reason I like him so much is because his ADP is in the 9th round. Come on. Even if he doesn't end up winning the backfield, he will be the third or fourth best running back on your team, and at that value, especially at the running back 30, I think he exceeds that. I think he still ends up as a top 25 running back, which isn't anything spectacular, but taking a low-end RB2 at pick 90 feels like a steal to me. Now we get into the interesting part with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Now, Tyreek Hill, as we all know, he's been a top receiver, top 10, top 9, 4 out of the last 5 years, and he's got, I would argue, the highest big play threat of any receiver in the NFL. He's been spectacular. You really can't go wrong when drafting Tyreek Hill in like that late first round, early second round spot. But that being said, I don't know if I trust him as much this year with Tua Tagovailoa instead of Patrick Mahomes. Obviously. But mostly in what I just said with the big play threat, that was his bread and butter. He would have some weeks, we get to get some consistent plays, some consistent catches. His targets are always there. But the big plays are really where he separates himself from the rest of the wide receivers in his department. Think like Stephon Diggs or anyone around that. CeeDee Lamb, anyone in that range. Tyreek Hill has a much higher big play threat just based on his speed and athleticism, which is fine, but I don't know if he'll have that same upside with Tua, which makes that ADP of 18 a little bit worrying for me. If he falls into the late second, early third round, I'll take him in a heartbeat, but that ADP definitely scares me, and I don't know if he'll finish as a wide receiver 8, but I think wide receiver 12 is honestly his floor, and you really can't go wrong with having him lead the wide receiver room on your team. That being said, it is a little risky for sure, given the new situation, and honestly, the same could be said about Jalen Waddle, who, for all intents and purposes, was a little bit underrated last season, given, Jamar Chase's superstardom. He had the 104 targets, rookie record, 22% target share on a pretty decent team that had some weapons. But that being said, Tyreek Hill will definitely eat into this a little bit. Honestly, Jalen Waddle's ADP didn't really get touched once Tyreek Hill got added, and I feel like it should be a little lower. I think he projects more as a 5th round wide receiver, given the situation with Tyreek Hill. Will definitely eat into his targets, and I could see him being closer to wide receiver 20. That being said, a nice solid, low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 ceiling is pretty solid given Jalen Waddle's talent. and they definitely both eat into each other, but they've both worked, codependently with others in the past. And I would like having either of them on my team. I'm not going to fall in love with these guys or reach for them in this regard, but I think they're both nice, solid options that you can't go wrong with. But that being said, like we mentioned, it all depends on Tua. If he's good, great, these guys excel. If Tua has a down year, then these guys are kind of out of luck. And you're, getting mad at them for trading Tyreek Hill, who you have Hill or Waddle, etc. But I like all their upsides. It's definitely worth the risk at these picks. I skipped a page. Someone I'm a little bit down on this year compared to normal is Gesicki. Mike Gesicki ranked as a tight end 12, 111 ADP, which all sounds fine to me. But he's just, a slot receiver playing at the tight end, basically. And he's really been solid. He's consistent. He's stable. But the thing is with Gesicki, he's almost a little too consistent. Like, he just doesn't really have that high upside. You know his floor. You know his ceiling, basically. If you look at the right side there, you have some of his scores. The one we're missing week 1 is 0, which is less than ideal. But the rest of them, he has a 19-point game, a 21-point game. Like, he has some good, solid games, but the rest of the season, he's having some games where most of the season he does barely eclipse 10 points. A bunch of games in the single digits. 2 zeros is concerning. I just don't see the upside there, especially considering now that Tyreek Hill's in the folds. You can expect those numbers on the right to go down, which, doesn't really see the upside of drafting someone this late. He's a little safer of a pick compared to some people in the range, like of Dawson Knox, Cole Kmet come to mind, who I'd rather have than Gesicki. So I just think his ceiling is a little bit low, and with Tyreek Hill, and even Cedric Wilson to an extent, helps cut into his production a little bit. So I'm going to not avoid Gesicki, but if I'm in that kind of dead zone tight end range when everyone else is taken, I'd probably take someone else over him. Defense and kicking wise, these are two solid options you can't go wrong with either way. The Dolphins defense was honestly sneakily good last year, and they might be getting better. They're not going to blow you away every week, but they're a good streaming option that should be available on the waiver wire most weeks, given the matchups they have. They're pretty good turnover options. Xavier Howard is a star, and I think I could, if you have a good matchup for them, I would not mind streaming a Dolphins defense every now and then. And Jason Sanders, the kicker, fairly reliable, gets his kicks in, not too much to say anything spectacular. Definitely don't love him as a top 5 or top 10 kicking option, but he's pretty solidly in that mix. I think he's going to be a solid kicker. Can't really ask for much more at the position. And overall, this offense, this team just depends on Tua. There's no way around it. This is his make or break year. I liken it to Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia, where if they have all the options now, that's they're not going to get another opportunity like this. And I think Tua might be up to the challenge. I believe that he is. We saw his talent at Alabama, and honestly, we've seen his talent with the past year teams. He just hasn't been as consistent as we'd like him to be. That being said, it is definitely risky to take someone on this team. You're betting not only on that player, but you're betting on Tua. You're betting on the new coaching staff to really get all the pieces working together. And I'm not going to fall in love with any option on this team, but most of the offense are nice, solid pieces that I wouldn't mind having on my fantasy team at all. So that's my analysis of the Dolphins. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe. I have one of these coming out every day for the next however many days until the regular season starts. Not enough is the answer. But I will see you guys in the next video.